Hello, Trailblazers. Welcome to the Trailblazers Palette Podcast. I'm your host, Sancha Marshall, and today I'm excited to introduce you to an incredibly inspiring artist, Lene Fredriksen. Lene's journey to becoming a full-time artist is raw and real. She battled low self-worth and social anxiety, but found solace and self-discovery through painting. Her art led her to a profound spiritual awakening, helping her embrace her true self and connect with something bigger. In this episode, Lene talks about how an oil painting class in her 20s sparked a transformation, boosting her self-esteem and sense of identity. We'll dive into her path of self-love, the challenges of balancing creativity and business, and the freedom that comes from creating authentically. Lene's story is a beautiful testament to the power of art in helping us connect with our inner essence. Thank you, Lene, for being on the podcast. It's awesome to have you here. To start out with, if you can share a bit about yourself with us and like your journey to where you are today and a bit about your background and how you came to be an artist.
Yeah, so I am not one of those who can tell you that I always knew I was going to be an artist sort of thing. I grew up sort of watching Dad draw a bit, so I realized pretty early on that it was a skill to build. And yeah, always drew as a child and at school and that. And looking back, whenever I heard in art classes that art had to have a story behind it, that it had to have a symbolic meaning or a story, I just right away saw what I love to do regarding drawing as separate to that. So I didn't sort of see a link between what I love to do and art. So it wasn't until I was 22 when I moved to Australia for a little while. My mother-in-law took me to this art material shop, just this sort of hobby shop, and I saw this art magazine thing saying oil painting 101. I was like, ooh, I want to do that. I didn't even know that was sort of an accessible thing. Like I thought that was for the old masters sort of thing. But it was like this thing that just clicked into place, like it had always been missing since I was a child. I still sort of didn't see it as art, what I was doing, but I just didn't care anymore. At that time, I was in a very low point with my self-esteem. I had really low thoughts about myself. Yeah, just art gave me that. It's hard to explain without explaining the specifics about why. So when I was a teenager, I noticed that I was a bit different to everyone in that I had no interest whatsoever around common knowledge about like politics, history, famous people. I just didn't know what they were talking about with current events of the globe. Information like that just never sticks with me. And during my teens, when I got a lot of shock reactions for when I started asking questions, and because I was curious, but when I got those shock reactions back, I stopped asking to sort of keep myself socially safe. And then I started criticizing myself a lot for not knowing these things. And I told myself that I had nothing of value or anything to contribute with. And because I protected myself so much socially, it started sort of becoming true where I didn't have anything to contribute with. And that only gave more food for those thoughts of self-criticism. And yeah, at the time when I was 22, I also got out of a really bad relationship, very sort of toxic, that where I just lost myself completely. Always adjusted to those around me, like, yeah, people pleasing sort of thing, where I try to adjust to whoever I talk to with regards to my opinions, what I talk about, how I dress. I was just empty inside because I did everything I could to avoid, because I thought I had nothing of value. So I never went there. But then I found painting, and it just gave me something outside of myself to reflect on, and to just gave me that sort of break. And once my skills sort of grew a little bit as well, it gave me I could give myself that benefit of doubt where I thought maybe I had something, and maybe there's a trade-off there as well, that if I'm so interested in this, maybe that could explain why I have no interest in this other stuff. So it gave me sort of a little bit of some sense of identity. Yeah, and then it got to a point where my skills sort of stagnated as well, because while the painting gave me a sort of a reason to kind of like myself. It was still very much attached to my achievements. So I could like myself as long as I did well with the
Mm.
paintings. But then when it really stagnated, because I then didn't dare to experiment to
Yeah.
grow, because if I experimented, then there was no guarantee for a good result. And then I started sort of realizing that pattern, and I had to sort of make a choice to work on my sense of self worth and self love outside of art. And when I started being capable of loving myself outside of the art, then I could experiment more with the art, and I sort of started finding myself more. It was a very long process, about 15 years.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and I think when it got to a point where my art became so authentic, where I sort of let go of all externally driven choices, I really then found myself, and that's when I felt that sense of purpose, and I got the courage to just go all in.
Yeah, I can relate a lot of what you say, and I think that talking to some artists, there's been similar experiences there. Is that with art, you find something more, and so you can really explore yourself with art, and it's a reason I think people connect with it. Even if I talk to like I bought one of your pieces of art, and I think that you can feel and connect with something more than just the image. It's the artist does put their soul pretty much onto that
Yeah,
canvas, and you can feel that in what they paint and how they paint, and it's lovely to have a
yeah,
little part of that. I think that you can
yeah,
relate to and be reminded of whatever you need to with it in your life.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, no, it's a very vulnerable thing to be doing, but it's good because what you see in front of you, it's all choices or not choices, but you can then start to look at what drove the choices.
Hmm.
And was it fear driven, or like an externally driven thing where you're trying to create for the results, or was it something that you desired to do?
Yeah.
And you can, when you have that in front of you, you can start to like, it gives you something to work on
Yeah.
mentally.
Yeah, it can reveal a lot, can't it? I
Yeah,
think that
yeah,
art can be, and I've found it can be quite confronting if you don't really want to
mm,
deal with those feelings or emotions, but it gives you a platform that you can if you explore and go a little bit deeper. And yeah, I know
yeah,
we've coached together, Lene, and that was
yeah,
a really, really awesome experience for me. I think that was actually probably
yeah,
a changing point in my art and in myself, in just, I guess,
yeah,
seeing things differently and being kinder to
mm,
myself and
mm,
my approach to art, because I'd always before you had coaches who were very maybe more, I would say, masculine in the approach of like that, yeah, getting that business up and the driven results. So
yeah.
in working that way, you get burnt out if you're not that type of person.
Yeah. And I think the funny thing about it is that when you stop being result driven, the results get better.
Yes, and it's so true. It's so true.
Yeah.
I know that I haven't purposefully sold art in the last probably 12 months, but every time I put a piece out there or even just on a
Yeah.
platform for sale, it sells. And I
Yeah.
haven't, and I'm like, I haven't done anything really. I've painted
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
and put it out there. So I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, this is, yeah, bizarre.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's the thing with my art too, is that from the moment when, well, it wasn't a moment, it was many, many, many moments, but
Yeah.
the more authentic I got, the less I worry about the results, but more about the process, and the more excited I am about whatever I'm making,
Yeah.
the more others are excited about it,
Mm.
and the more it started selling.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
um, yeah, it's, which is funny when that theme comes up around creating to sell,
Mm.
finding that balance between creating what sells and creating what you want. But
Yeah.
really, the more you create what you want, the more it sells,
Yes.
because that excitement is contagious.
Yeah.
And because they don't just buy the image, they buy everything.
Yes. Yes.
It's just funny how we're we're very affected by that old sort of business model,
Mm.
that more masculine. And we're not selling products that people. It's not a useful thing. It's something else.
Yes, yeah, it's a desire. It is necessary in a way, but not. Like you don't need to have it to
Yeah,
survive, but yeah,
you don't need it, but it's just that awareness of that it sells
yeah.
differently. It doesn't sell for the same reasons.
Yes, and I think
Mm.
that that's a lovely thing about it. Oh, that's what I like anyway. Now that here down the track a little bit, that some it's nice to understand that a bit more than when I first
Mm.
started out.
Yeah, I think a big thing with that is realizing the value of it, because no, it's not something you need and it's not useful in that way, but it's better. It
Yeah.
makes life worth living. It
Mm,
makes someone connect with who they are. It gives them a sense of identity because it connects with them.
yeah.
And in that way, it makes it worth living.
I know I've tried to purposefully as an artist buy art myself that I connect with just so I can be
Yeah,
on that side of things and understand connecting with it and finding something I love and then having that art in my home and that I can see every day. So now I've got
yeah.
some artworks that I've collected over time
Mm,
and I love them because they add something that wasn't there before and they're little, I
yeah.
guess, reminders. And I think as an artist, I don't know, it's nice to have that side of it, or I've enjoyed that anyway,
No, I still have yet to. I've bought lots of prints.
which I think can be just as powerful too.
Yes, it's certainly better than nothing, but I am looking forward to one day treating myself. Yeah, I just, because right now we have, with this space issue with two kids in a small apartment, and my studio is
Yeah.
in the apartment, and that
Yes.
I kind of involuntarily hang up my paintings to just for
Yeah.
space.
Yes.
But I'm like, oh, I don't want to look at my own paintings. Just want someone else's painting
I
something.
do, I do that too. I tend to, yeah, with my own work, like you say, space again. You know, if I've got my big pieces
Yeah.
more so I have hanging up. So it's like, yeah, I'm kind of sick of looking at that one now.
Uh,
But yeah.
kind of feels like an old gum that I just want to get rid of.
You've moved on to new things. Or I find after a while
Yeah,
too,
but
you stop seeing them. I don't know if you find that.
yeah,
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 like
absolutely. Because
it
I see the process,
yes.
and I see the mentality that I went through that process,
Yeah.
and which is valuable in that the lessons I went through. But I don't see the image like others see it. So
Yep.
that's like I'm done with it. I went through the process. The process was mine.
Mm.
Now it's a product. It's a byproduct of that process. But I need space, so I need to hang it up.
Yeah, that's pretty
So
interesting actually, isn't it? I know you because I've been doing some courses and that, so technically I've improved a lot. And so now when I'm looking at work, when I've been in that mindset of improving that technique, I look at old work and I go, "Oh, I see all of the things that I would do differently now." It's slightly annoying.
yeah.
In the yeah, otherwise I know that that painting was done at that moment in time and it means something else, but yeah, it's still
Yeah, and I think I don't know how many old paintings that I have thrown out just because I don't like to collect everything. It depends on whether it has any value for me to keep it in terms of remembering lessons or memories or whatever. But like musicians, they don't have to collect everything they do. They can just
Mm,
clunk around on their instruments and they're in it for that process, and that's fine. But because we're visual artists, our medium happens to produce a tangible thing.
mm,
But it doesn't mean that we have to keep everything we do. In my view, the most important thing is to keep the lessons. And remember that even though you're done with it, it brought you to where you are today, so you can value it without keeping it. That's been my approach.
yeah. I think that's actually a really nice perspective. I like that. And
Mm.
I have found I'd always struggled with a sketchbook. I'd, buy
Yeah,
the sketchbook and have a sketchbook. And for my drawing, I'd always want to make it neat and pretty and perfect. So what I actually
yeah,
found worked well for me was actually to get on my tablet and to digitally draw, and I'd scrub it after each
yeah,
practice. I would
yeah,
just, okay, next one, next one, next one.
yeah,
There was
yeah.
no attachment to it, so I could just enjoy the process.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense.
That just reminded me of what you were saying about, yeah,
Mm,
enjoying that process, having some art just for you. It's not all for
yeah,
display. It's
yeah,
all about you and
yeah,
your growth. Yeah.
yeah. And that's when you have that approach, that's when you start really producing quantity, where you stop. The
Yes.
less you can care about it, the better you get at getting out whatever it is you want to get out.
Yes. I've talked to some, artists now who are very far along in their careers, and it's like they still struggle with these things.
Oh,
So it's
yeah.
like, it's actually been a relief to know that I'm not really weird, or that these things are, I
Yeah.
guess, universal.
Yeah. And I think we're a bit of a package deal as well.
Mm.
We're made this way that we feel the need to produce these through that medium. You can't have one without the other, sort of thing. I'm not saying that all artists struggle. I'm just saying that in order to be a sensitive person, to want to get these things out, to reflect on things, to have that need to express yourself, you are also sensitive. If
Yes.
you weren't, you wouldn't have the need to get it out like that.
Yeah, that's right. So true.
So yeah, you gotta accept the whole package.
Yes, and work with
Yeah.
that. I think that's it.
And yeah,
Learning,
yeah.
learning to work with you and how you are. Because I know I spent my life wishing I was different, wishing I wasn't so sensitive. And
Mm,
my daughter's the same. She's like, "Why do I have to be so emotional, Mum? Like, why do I care about everything so much?" But it's in that sensitivity that
yeah.
I think there is that beauty and strength. And I think that
Yeah.
you, as an artist, Lene, you embody that vulnerability and strength together.
Yeah. I got to a point where I had to make a choice whether I was going to work at it and
Mm.
like go that route. Oh, I don't know what my options were. Just felt that it was a make it or break it point where I sort of hit rock bottom. I have an urge that I can't resist to be honest about things. I can't
Yeah.
not. It feels so wrong to me if I'm not totally honest about things
Mm.
and transparent. I don't know what, like, yeah, just with this sort of spiritual awakening. I don't know if I already mentioned that, but last year I went from being a full on atheist. I've been an atheist my whole life up until
Mm.
a year ago.
Mm.
Chose a very sort of logical career with science and always been very logically minded. I
Mm.
had a lot of that spiritual stuff in me, but I didn't sort of name it as spirituality. I just was very interested in the self development. But when I suddenly had that sense of a spiritual awakening and I went from not believing to fully believing, I was it was very scary to me to share that on social and that. And a friend said to me, "But you don't have to share it." I'm like, oh yeah, 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 I do. I don't know why, but I have to.
Yes. Yeah, share a little bit more about that with
Mm,
us, Lene. Yeah, I'm interested to hear more
yeah,
about your journey.
uh,
Like, what was that spiritual awakening for you, and
yeah,
what happened, I guess, with your perspective of things through that,
yeah. What
transition, I
happened?
imagine.
Yeah, it felt like the ground was sort of pulled out from underneath me, and I'm still sort of in the process of finding my feet, finding ground again.
Mm. Like, was there anything that, I guess, triggered it?
Yeah, I mean, the way I see it was a final piece of a jigsaw that just clicked into place, and that's when it was suddenly brought to my conscious awareness that I believed there was more. And that happened through my art, I would say, that I had a lot of limiting beliefs in how my art should be and shouldn't be, those sort of externally driven choices where I was afraid to use too much color. I dulled everything down to, because I thought it had to be sort of a certain level of realism. I had felt a sense of belonging in the plein air community, so I was very attached to sort of their way of doing things. And I also felt that I had to paint a certain way because that's what I had done already. So I needed
Mm.
to stick with a certain brand or what, yeah, all these made up truths that I acted by. And it's also a bit of a job to identify what drove my choices. So as I gradually worked through all these limiting beliefs, I was left with an art expression that was just totally mine,
Mm.
not like influenced by other artists and that, but it was all coming from a place of longing and a desire, not it has to be this or this. I don't know, it got to a point in my art where it was so authentic that it felt like it wasn't completely of me, but through me. Like I was
Mhm.
suddenly a channel.
Yeah.
Well, I say suddenly, it wasn't sudden, but it felt sudden. And titles for the paintings just came to me, and it all fitted, like when I started analyzing the painting symbolically, it just fit all of my values and everything that I really want to communicate to people, to my kids. It just suddenly felt like all these scattered parts of me came out through this one channel of the paintings. And I had also, because for a long time I have had a longing towards making patterns, like geometric patterns, but I always told myself that that's a distraction. You're a scatterbrain. Don't do that. Or do it for a little bit, but then you have to get back to your real thing, like oil painting. But then, yeah, I just decided to embrace all of that and just do whatever. And then it just sort of fell into place into the paintings. So yeah, when I just then felt a sense of purpose, like my art had value as well, because I had a message that I saw coming through that I feel is a very important message about, going inwards and peeling off all the fear-driven layers, healing your past traumas, and get to a place where you really feel at home within yourself. So yeah, it felt like it all had a purpose, and that I also wasn't, maybe I'm not this way because I'm just weird. Maybe I am this way because I'm meant to be this way. Maybe there's a purpose to this. And yeah, I just started getting really curious, and it was just something I felt connected to everyone and everything. It was this experience that I couldn't sort of ignore. And also when I started drawing all these mandalas and geometric patterns, started seeing how these sort of uniform shapes are found everywhere. And if I tuned in and just didn't think, suddenly butterflies would pop out inside my mandala, and it just all fit. And it's like, this can't be.
That's so cool. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And also because, so my mom, she passed away 3 years ago now. And that was also a bit of a part of it, that when I started getting curious, it was like, oh, maybe mom's not completely gone. Maybe she's here. That gave me an extra motivation to seek all these. I've become very searching. And when all this happened, I just felt that I'm meant to be myself, and I'm meant to follow this path. And then it just gave me this extra courage that, okay, I'm going to do my part. If I get help, then that would be great. But I will do my part.
Yeah.
And daring to jump in without knowing the final outcome.
Which can be scary.
Yeah, scary for sure. But also not so scary, because I do live in Norway, and the worst thing that can happen is that I will have to go to get another job.
Yeah.
I really hate I really hate that idea, but
that in itself is kind of motivation.
Exactly.
Yeah. And so for those who don't know, Lene, maybe if you can share a little of your journeys, from, I guess, science, motherhood, and then into your full-time art. And I think recently you've had a show and that.
Yeah. Okay. So I started my career in science right after high school, and worked in that job for 10 years as a toxicologist. So I have a bachelor in biology, and then took toxicology as my master's, and then worked in this research facility around aquatic environmental issues around marine and aquatic. I'm struggling with the English language right now.
No, you're doing well.
Yeah, and then I became a mother as my oldest is 8 years old, youngest is 3.
Yes, and that in itself, I think motherhood's a huge journey, isn't it? It's life-changing.
Yeah, nothing. I said earlier that my spiritual awakening, it felt like pulling the rug up from underneath me. That was, the ground was pulled out from underneath me when I became parent for the first time. That was tough. But it did, in a way, it kind of forced me to, I don't know, kids have this way of bringing your triggers out on the table for you to look at. And
there's no hiding, is there?
There's no hiding. No, they just find those buttons. And I realized pretty early that this is the time to really start handling my own feelings so that I can tolerate their feelings. yeah, because what I've discovered for myself is that the more empathy, acceptance, and tolerance I have for myself, and understanding that the triggers are there for reasons, the more I can be in their emotions without taking things personally. It's been nothing in my life has been more helpful in propelling me forwards on the self-development journey.
Yeah. Yeah, I would
Yeah.
agree hugely.
Yeah. How old are your kids now again?
Xander will be 18 next year.
18.
And yeah, I
Yeah.
know. I can't believe it. And Parker is coming up 15 and is 10 now.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're not little anymore, but yeah, yes.
No.
It just changes. It's still good and bad.
Yeah.
Challenging.
Yeah, it's just challenging in different ways, I
Yes.
guess. But you've homeschooled all three, right?
Yes, yes. We're
Yeah.
homeschooled for a decade now.
Mm.
So
I know that's very impressive.
yeah, a lot
Like,
of people say that they either think you're crazy or they're like, that's not for me. I'm like, I totally get it. I've heard it all.
yeah, no, but the thing is, no one knows what they would choose until they were in the exact same situation with the exact sum of experiences that you've
Very
had with
true.
your kids.
Very true.
I can't tell you how many times I've thought, oh, I'm so glad that there are other adults that take care of certain parts of the learning. Like,
Yeah.
I don't have to teach them everything.
I totally get it. Some days yeah. I had actually an artist friend, her husband, I was talking about homeschooling and he actually said to me, he's like, why would you want to do that? he said, isn't that what you kind of live for? Is like dropping them off at the school gate and waving goodbye. Like, yeah, it's very true. There are sacrifices that come along with it, but there's a lot of good as well. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, of course.
And it's definitely not for
Yeah.
everybody.
No, but when you just do what you see your kids need, adapt to the situation.
Yeah. And I think that's what it was born out of. It was Xander, my oldest, when he was going into grade 2. He was at a school where there was bullying and he went through a pretty tough time where, he wouldn't even go to
Mm,
school. He didn't, he had some pretty horrible stuff happen there and he's quite sensitive and it just
mm.
naturally came about. I was one of those people that's like, no, that's not for me. I don't want to do that. But I went, oh, I can give it a go at worst. We can, find another school or change
Yeah,
and then I saw such a big difference in him that we continued with it. Yeah. And it's evolved from there.
I'm sure there's a lot of good things about it as well that you wouldn't know until you experienced it.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Mm.
And I think the people that have been on that journey for a long time, like us now, that I talk to, that's probably what you connect on and you can talk about those benefits because it's a journey that
Yeah,
not a lot of people, I think, understand. It's something I don't tend to talk about a lot, probably because, yeah, the majority of people, it's fairly foreign. I was asking about your journey to becoming a full-time artist, I guess, and the show that you've just had.
yeah. So I quit in April. So 1st of April, I was on my own.
Which isn't that long ago, Lene, it's
No, 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 no.
yeah,
And I have prepared for this for like almost 15 years now. I knew
yeah,
from the start that I started painting that I didn't know how or why, but I just knew that this was it. And I would have to be patient and sort of make choices around that. Like even the distance in age between our kids are 5 years because I needed that time. I couldn't sort of sign out of my journey. I needed a little bit of space in between the two kids and
yeah,
where we live. Like a lot of our friends, they live in much bigger places than we do. They have more. We've just made a lot of choices so that we can have a little bit of financial space for me
mm,
to quit for a little while without making money. And so that's where I am now. I just decided that, well, it got to a point earlier, probably about a year ago in my job, I just felt that my patience kind of ran out a little bit.
yeah,
And I felt that I wasn't fully in the lane that would bring me to where I wanted to be. Just looking at how much art I could make in my free time with my other job and my two kids, I just felt that I wasn't on my way to the future I wanted within the speed I needed it to go. And when I found myself in a way through the art, I just felt that okay, I'm ready now, and that it's just about producing and being what I want to be. There's nothing else stopping me now than selling. And I'm known for a while now that the art is people want it. It's just about upscaling it. So then I decided with my partner that within a year now, I will give it another year in my current job. And then after that, we jump. And so for a year now, we've made very conscious decisions for that to be able to happen. And also just analyzing worst case scenario has been important. Yeah. So it's not that I can't say that, oh, I got to a point where I was replacing my current income with the art and then I could quit. That's how I always imagined it. I always imagined gradually decreasing my number of days I work with this other job, and then the income I would make from the art would sort of inform decisions there, if that makes sense. That's how I always imagined it. But that's what I realized it wasn't gonna happen that way. So yeah, I decided to trust that there's a purpose behind this and I need to do my part and show up with all of me, because while I had that other job, I sort of dabbled in both, but I couldn't show up fully in both. And then there's a limit to how much results you can expect as well. So yeah, we'll just see how long we can go with this. And I try to, every time fear comes up because it does come up several times a day. Yeah. Like, will I be able to make this work? Sort of things, especially with social media, when I keep showing up and I don't see immediate results, that triggers fear in me, even though I know logically that I have to be persistent with it. I can't see results before I've been persistent with it for a long period of time and show up as if it's already successful.
Yeah.
But when I get scared, I try to sort of analyze the situation that, am I at a point now where I need to get another job right now? The answer is no, I don't need another job right now. Then we're good. Everything's good. That's what I tell myself.
Yeah. Balancing that logic with the creating would be hard. And I think it's brave of you actually, and probably fairly wise that you took that year to plan. And I think I would have to do something similar, because I like details and I like being prepared and and all that. I know some artists have the freedom probably just to jump in and do that, but I think being in a situation where you have a family and you have other commitments, it's not quite so easy to do that, is it?
No, you have responsibilities that, but by analyzing the risk, you can make much more informed decisions.
Yeah.
And sort of try to be aware of what choices are fear driven as well and what are authentically driven. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Within making the art as well. If I'm all in fear mode, what does that do to the art I'm making? And try to consciously work through the fear and then get back to painting. And it's very helpful that I know very well who I am as an artist and why the art comes out the way it does, and the more conscious I am about my voice as an artist, the easier it is to recognize when fear comes in and meddles it up.
Yeah, absolutely. I was going to ask you about that. And how do you find you work in the studio? Like, what works best for you? And if you can share a little bit about your process.
Yeah, often I have a bit of a balance between planned and unplanned in my paintings, because I paint in a sort of balanced way between abstract and realism. And I need both. I need to have the freedom to not have a plan. Sometimes I need to see a tiger in front of me, and I have to plan that. Otherwise, it's not going to look like a tiger. So I need both. And so sometimes I don't have a plan, or I don't have an idea, and I don't like to force ideas. So what I do then is I just start a painting without a plan, and then I do a couple of abstract layers, and then I might get an idea of what animal I want to put on top of that. And I might just take a photo of the abstract stage and then play around digitally with just looking at different animals and then seeing what I respond to. So if, let's say I'm searching for animals, and for example, just unsplash.com, I go to a royalty-free site.
Yeah. I like that one too.
And if I don't
Yeah.
even know which animal I want to paint, I just search for animals and I scroll. And then I'm not looking for oh, that's cute, I'll paint that. I'll
Mm.
just looking for what happens if I feel expansive or like it's just, I'm looking for a response within me. And it's
Yeah,
usually
that
hell yes.
intuitive. Yeah.
And yeah, yeah. And I don't bother questioning, I don't bother analyzing what it
Mm.
means or anything like that. But I have discovered that it always has a meaning that fits with where I am in my current state, or it has a message for me. I trust that. But yeah, then I'm just looking for a hell yes. And then I play around digitally on top of that image, and I mask away on the animal to reveal the underneath layers. And then I create sort of a starting point or somewhat a plan. It's not that I have
Mm.
to stick with it, but at least I have that reference for the animal, and I know I have a composition that works.
Mm.
Yeah, and other times I go in with the fully fleshed idea. I often get that during meditation, and I just try not to question. I try not to let my brain get in the way in that stage. I just trust. Yeah. And then I'm always shocked after when I start analyzing symbolism because it just
Yeah.
fits.
I actually love that part of it. Do you? I love
Yeah,
the when I come to maybe story writing with the
yeah,
artwork, which I like to
yeah,
do.
yeah,
Yeah, the maybe the colors I've used or like that intuitive process, how then that I'm like, wow, yeah. Or
yeah.
like
Oh,
the
I love
symbolic
it.
meaning of a particular animal or flower or something like that.
Yeah,
Whatever I feel compelled to, I guess, search or
yeah.
particular colors. I'm like, it's actually pretty powerful.
It is. It is. It's
Mm,
so much. It's like spiritual messages. It's like that's our guidance. That's our way of getting guidance. Yeah,
yeah.
I love that part. And it's so funny now to think of when I was a kid and heard that message that art has to have a story and how that scared me. And
Mm.
here it is, it has a story, but I never forced it. It's not something you force. It's something that is just there
No.
if you follow what's right for you.
Yes, I would completely agree. Yeah.
Yeah. Titling paintings used to be I didn't even do it. I just
I
numbered
think
them.
and yeah, but I think a lot of artists struggle with that because you see so many
Yeah.
paintings that are Untitled 1, Untitled 2, or
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
got the same name 1, 2, 3. It's just
Yeah. And I get it, but I've discovered for myself that once I have fully embraced the things that I want to do, then titling is just
it's
another
funny. Yeah,
for
I
it's
yeah.
self-expression.
Yeah, I always feel a little bit sad when I see that painting not
Yeah.
named or something, giving it its
Yeah.
own name. It's like it's missing something.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a possibility for self-reflection.
Yes, yeah,
Yeah.
very true. So, how would you say your work, Lene, I guess, like, because you talked about that transition from being a plein air painter, and, you
Mm,
see this all the time, rules within the art world of particular ways to do things, or, particularly as you
mm,
come in as a beginner artist and you're learning from
yeah.
others and you collect all of this kind of baggage along the way that then probably can help but also hinder your own work. How have you found that, I guess, now that you have that freedom in your own work?
I learned I hate that they're called rules. I see them
Mm.
as helpful principles.
Yeah, that's a good way of looking at it.
So if you, for example, composition, if you compose it this way, then statistically it will be more engaging. Or
Mm.
yeah, you can split the canvas in four parts, for example, or in two parts, and you get two. It's just I just see them as helpful principles to understand what happens if you do this, then that. If you do this, then that. And then
Yeah.
once you know that, it is part of your toolbox to
Yes.
create whatever it is that you want. So the
Mm.
more you know these things, the more freedom you get because you can use it to compose. But that doesn't mean you have to use it. It's just there if you want to use
Mm.
it to evoke something. But the thing that really set me free from that, I mean, I got a lot of the lessons I learned through that plein air season of my life. I use it still. It's helpful. It helps
Mm.
me
Yeah,
paint from photos, and I understand where the photos
absolutely.
fall short, and I understand where plein air gets where that falls short because I want to do this sort of thing. So then it's helpful for some things, but not for others in what I want to do. But where I got stuck in was I was bored with it for 2 years. I was bored, but instead of changing my approach, I stuck with it because I convinced myself that's what I had to do. I guess I had this desire to impress people in the plein air community. I don't know. I don't really know. I just know it was externally driven choices. But once I started to acknowledge that, okay, I'm bored, maybe I take that seriously. Feelings are just guideposts. They're there to guide you
Yes.
along to the path that is right for you. If you're
Yeah.
jealous, that's a helpful feeling because then you know that that's something you want.
Mm. Mm.
So
Very true.
instead of ignoring feelings or trying to suppress them, use them as navigation.
Yeah.
And that's what I decided to do. And that's actually when I painted that bumblebee that you bought. I was
Yes.
like, stuff this. I'm going to do exactly what I want to do. I'm going to paint the bumblebee.
Yeah, and I think I saw that one. Oh, there was something about it I
uh,
loved. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. There's not many particular studio days that I remember,
Mm.
but that one I remember.
Yeah.
It was just pure joy, that whole painting.
And it definitely comes through. And I think it holds memories for me of times of pure joy because it was the flower in the painting. My
Yeah,
grandma had a whole bush of those, and they used to have honeybees, and they would come and be on those flowers. So, you
yeah,
know, being around her and at the farm and that are really happy memories for me. So I think that painting is that. It is pure joy.
yeah, yeah,
So, which is really, it's always really cool to hear, yeah,
yeah,
your
yeah.
creation of that. So, yeah, thank you for sharing that.
Of course.
And so, if you don't mind broaching on the topic of commissions versus creating your own work and how you, I guess, balance that and how you find that process for yourself.
I've done commissions where it's not at all what I want to do, like suddenly a commission of portraits where likeness is the main goal, sort of thing.
Hmm.
But that kind of commission I've done once, and I know now that I will not accept. Well, at least if I accept it, I know it's not because I think I have to, but yeah, it'll be a conscious choice if I do that again. But I try now to create a format for the commission so that it's on my terms. On my website, there's a commission page where I sort of lay out the process.
Mm.
We'll talk a lot to start with, but I'm not going to involve them. I'm not going to let them change anything during,
Yeah.
because at that point, I'm the only one who knows the potential for it.
Mm.
Because they're not necessarily an artist, they won't be able to detect what is mistakes and what is just
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
way it should be.
Directing it. Yeah.
Yeah,
From that
yeah,
point is probably disastrous.
yeah. So no, right, I am working on developing a process where the terms are what works for me,
Mm.
and that there needs to be they can't be too attached to the outcome.
Mm. Mm.
And that depends on what the client wants, because some clients want to see what the artists come up with, and they want the artist's voice, and they want it to be that creative freedom. And
Mm.
that's the kind of client that I'm looking for. And
Yes.
to
Yes.
get that, I need to be clear on the
Mm.
commission page about what the terms are and how the process is laid out. But my focus is not commissions right now. Right now, I just want to keep doing what it is that I'm doing, and the commissions can come a bit later, I'm
Yep.
thinking. Do you
Yep.
do a lot of commissions?
No, I don't now. I haven't done any for a while. Probably, I found it very interesting talking to different artists and about their commission process, just because it is something I have really struggled with in the past to be able to open myself up to doing that. And so I
Yeah.
find it interesting hearing how other people do it, because I think it does help me to maybe go, okay, well, one day I've had some really beautiful
Yeah.
commissions. I've had a couple where
Yeah.
I've
Yeah.
actually really enjoyed them, and yes, it's what you said. It's that creative freedom probably where they haven't been attached to the end result, and they've given me creative license. And there's still, of course, you want the painting to be loved and to be all they hope
Yes.
for, But I
Of
think
course.
from the beginning, it's a much nicer process. It's very different to some other commissions I've had.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and then it's about sort of creating intentionally, I think.
Yes.
Um,
And I would say too that, for you and, being more, I guess, secure and free in your
mm,
style and knowing who you are, that commission clients that come to you then are coming to you for that, for your style.
exactly.
And so
Yeah.
it's already in a different space than maybe a
Yeah.
beginner artist who is still finding themselves.
Yeah, and then I think if you're still finding yourself, then you can create an intention before that commission that, okay, this is for me to explore. What can I discover here about myself?
Yeah.
What if you don't like it? Okay, then that is a discovery that
Yeah,
is
and
worth
that's it. Yeah,
noting.
learning from that process, isn't it?
Yeah,
It's not
yeah,
necessarily a bad thing to do. I've actually learned a lot, I think, from the challenging experiences.
yeah. I think another way I want to work with commissions now is because I see the paintings as sort of spiritual messages coming
Yeah.
through. I'd like to work with a client to sort of almost like a coaching session or a not coaching, but where we really dive into what the client wants and what
Yeah.
who the client is, and then the painting will sort of be with the message to help that person a few more layers inwards, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think no, yeah, I
Um,
think and that's really beautiful. I think it's more of an experience, isn't it? With,
yeah, yeah,
yeah, that and a
for both of us.
collaboration. Yeah.
Yeah,
And I have kind of had that before. I really
yeah,
enjoy it. Yeah.
yeah, and I just see it as a gift for me to be able to get to know another person
Yes.
this way through the art and just lean on that curiosity and just get to dive into who that person is and in their spiritual space, sort of thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's how I want the commissions to be. And we can't go through that process and be too attached to the image. I mean,
Yes.
we can work towards something and
Mm.
explore that, but yeah, the commissions won't be your vision, my hands, sort of thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's really beautiful, actually.
Mm. And I love using tarot cards as part of the process as well.
Yes. I guess that would
Uh,
reveal a whole other, world.
yeah, it's been really really interesting.
Mm. And so
Yeah.
have you done much with that yet? Is that something new?
It was new, and I started with tarot cards in September, and done quite a few courses on it. And just when I get curious about something like this, and it just clicks with me, I get obsessed.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Deep
it's
dive. Yeah, I totally get
deep dive. Yeah,
that. And
I
you
don't
learn a
know.
lot. You learn a lot in a really short space of time
Yeah,
because it's like everything is devoted to it.
I don't know how to be mildly interested in something.
No,
I
I get
just
it.
it's all or nothing.
Uh,
But yeah, I have done a lot for people, I mean friends and friends of friends, but I use it a lot in my own artistic process and self-reflection and just to
yeah.
dive deeper into what each piece means, and it just helps me a lot.
Mm,
It's
mm.
like having guidance with me all the time. And it's not that I am relying on it, but it's just
I think you
um
could say it's like another dimension that's added
yeah,
to,
it's
like a
yeah.
gemstone. It's faceted, multifaceted, and it's just another facet.
Yeah, and I'm just
Yeah.
so hugely fascinated with it because, as I told
Mm.
you a year ago, I didn't believe any of this stuff. So for
Yeah.
me, it's like, there's magic?
I
What is
love the
this?
idea that there's magic,
Yeah, I know. And even if it isn't true, which I think it is, but even if it
Mm.
isn't, then it still works.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that's it. Even if it wasn't, it's like, if it's a beautiful way to live, then what's the harm kind of thing.
I know, I know.
Yeah.
Anything that helps you get in touch with yourself.
Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely. I agree. And you mentioned a little bit before about your social media and like your honesty and feeling like you need to share
yeah,
yourself because I know I've
mm,
struggled, yeah, with the social media side of things and removed
yeah,
myself lately from it just to, I guess have who am I without that
yeah,
before I go
yeah.
back to it. and
Yeah.
hopefully have a healthier relationship with it.
Mm.
And so that it doesn't encroach on my creating. And I
Yeah.
liked what you said actually about the feelings as guideposts, because I think that's it. Social
Mm.
media, and for someone who goes on their feelings a lot, social media can be quite toxic.
Yeah, I mean, it's easy to get this false idea that everyone around you is churning out art
Yes. Yes.
all the time. And yeah, it gives you that false image. And if you're then prone to self-criticism and putting yourself down, then there are lots of opportunities to do that with
Yeah.
social media.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it pays to work on yourself and feel secure in yourself before you spend too much time there. I
Yeah.
took 2 years break. It's been a while now, but I couldn't figure out who I was through
Mm.
that platform. I needed to figure out who I was and then let that come through.
Yes. Yes.
And I find that a little bit now too, after taking on board a little bit of the spiritual language that I
Mm.
never used before. I need to find a new version of me that feels like it holds true.
It's yeah,
And
that's interesting.
yeah, and in order to do that, I need to speak. I need to try it. I can't
Yeah.
figure out what is my language, how to speak about things without first speaking about things and then
Yeah.
feeling it out what felt authentic, what felt inauthentic. And
Mm.
it's very uncomfortable.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, that's true. I like that though, that you're working it out as you
Yeah.
go. It's sort of, like the evolution of your art. It's all a journey, isn't it? And there's no real
Yeah.
right or wrong. It's just a process.
Yeah. And if you can be your own best friend in it, then
Yeah.
you're safe.
Mm.
Even if it feels a little tacky and weird
Mm.
to not know exactly who you are through social media, if you have that safety within yourself and you are your own best friend, then
Mm.
whether you mess up or not, it's all okay. You can comfort yourself.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Very true. And so do you find that now, like, do you struggle with social media still?
A little, mostly because I know I now will rely on it to
Mm.
make my living. I mean, there are lots of things I can still change to make it more strategic, and there
Mm.
are lots
Mm.
of things I can still do that is in within my control.
Yeah.
But that side of it where I feel like I've done something really good and I've really shared something I feel that is valuable and
Yeah.
then there are 50 views, 2 likes. I was like, am I wasting my time? And then that fear triggers my self criticism.
Mhm.
Self criticism is just fear that comes up in a mean outfit, tries to, with good intentions, tries to steer you in a safer direction,
Yeah.
according to the inner critic, to keep you small and safe.
Mm.
Because even though you feel crap about being criticized by your inner critic, you're still playing smaller. Like
Yes.
my natural instinct is then to stop posting because I criticize myself for not producing a good enough content. But because I know my inner critic so well and I know what it drives it, which is fear. If you're dealing with a child that is scared, how do you approach it?
Mm. Usually with comfort, isn't it? You know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I feel that theme of being kind to yourself and self care and that is sort of portrayed as screw your inner critic. Your inner critic is evil. Don't listen to it.
Mm.
But that actually doesn't work in the way I understand it because then you're just criticizing back or ignoring,
Yeah.
which doesn't make the fear go away. You're still going to be scared of
Yeah.
whatever it is that you're scared of, which
Mm.
means that it will either come back up, the inner criticism, or it can come out in other ways that can control your actions. But if you get in the habit of seeing yourself as the mediator of your
Mm.
desires and your fears coming up as people pleasing or self criticism or judging
Yeah.
others, or yeah, if you can see yourself who you really are as separate to that, you're all of your
Mm.
parts. And if you can be the kind, loving entity that holds it all together and holds space for all of it,
Yeah, encompasses them
whilst
all. I like that idea.
encompasses them, yes, encompasses them all, and makes sure that all parts of you are going in the same direction. And yeah, your fear needs safety. So if you
Yes.
can be the mediator who provides that safety and not while not letting the fear take the wheel, but hold space for it, a loving space for it, then
Mm.
it will let its guard down
Yeah.
and not come up as much. And if it does come up, you know how to deal with it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's how I see mental health. I feel that I have a good mental health regarding social media, but it doesn't mean that fear doesn't come up and self-criticism doesn't come up. It's just that I have
Yes.
a different way of dealing with
How
it.
you're approaching those. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So that way I'm not putting myself down or I don't let it get that far with
Yeah.
putting myself down before I'm able to pick myself back up.
Mm. I think it's good you're able to do that, Lene, because I know some people I've talked to haven't or can't do that, so that their answer is to remove social media or to,
Yeah,
there's multiple approaches that it's finding what works for you, isn't it?
yeah, yeah. And removing yourself from social media can be a good thing while you work on it.
Mm.
But when it comes down to it, social media is a tool that you can choose to use or not.
Yeah, and I think that for art, it's especially valuable. It's a good
Very,
it's a good
yeah,
tool.
yeah. Yes, it's kind of a new bottleneck
Yeah.
if you compare it to galleries, but it's still like on TikTok and Instagram, I can do a painting and I can record it a little bit, a few moments here and there, put a video together, put it out, and then I have something that I enjoy as a diary input sort of thing.
Yes. And I think that's a
Um,
nice way to see it, and that's how it's
mm,
worked well for me in the past is when I see Instagram or something as a creative outlet as well, because
yeah,
I quite
yeah,
enjoy, video editing, that kind of stuff. So yeah,
yeah,
it's just another
yeah.
mode of creating.
Yeah, but I'm trying to work on my own boundaries with it as well to, for
Yeah.
example, after I have posted, to create some rules for myself where I'm not allowed to go in and refresh to like see what happened after I've posted because that's when my fear tend to take off. It's more of a financial fear than anything else because
Yeah, understandable. No, and I think it's one that a lot of artists struggle with, even ones that have been quite successful. They still have that fear of being able to support themselves and make money from their art, and that
yeah,
there's no right or wrong way to do that.
yeah. And it's trying to, I'm also trying to think outside the box to not see social as a bottleneck, but like have a broader look on it and network more face to
Mm.
face. I just have this issue with galleries at the moment where I don't want to go to galleries,
Mm.
but that's mostly because I enjoy doing things on my own. I don't want to answer to anyone, I think
Mm.
the gallery, I completely understand the 50% commission. I have no
Mm.
issues understanding why, but it makes it so that the gallery model isn't, it will be sort of leveraged marketing is the way I see it,
Mm.
not the
Yes.
main source of income,
Mm.
which is, it's not my focus right now to approach galleries, but I'm trying to think of other things like networking
Yeah.
and yeah, it's a work in progress.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And yeah, I get
Mm.
that too. And I think that you have to have many multiple hats, don't you, as an
Yeah.
artist? Yeah, and that's what I was going to ask you is, yeah, balancing the business and the creative side. It's a bit of a juggle.
Oh, yes. I'm planning a video now actually where I'm in a meeting with my accountant,
Uh-huh.
which is me. So
Yeah.
it'll be like, yeah. And the accountant isn't very happy with me at the moment because I keep postponing, like I keep scheduling and then I push it forward.
It sounds fun.
Um, yeah. The way I get accounting done is if I'm procrastinating another painting.
Yeah.
And then I will schedule accounting and then I'll do that painting.
So it's productive procrastination
Yes. How can I use procrastination?
to your advantage. It's like, yeah, I can put that off. It's
Uh,
because I'm doing something worthwhile.
yeah.
I get that.
Yeah.
Well, I think that that's what I've found actually lately. Funny you saying that. Yeah, courses. It's like, oh, but I'm working on my course, so I don't have to
Yeah.
do my own stuff. Yeah,
Yeah.
like, but I do. I still need to explore my own work,
Yeah.
not just what I'm learning.
No. But yeah, you asked about the balance. I use
Hmm.
Notion as this planning app.
Okay.
Well, it's not just an app. You can use their website. It's sort of this workflow place where it's all in one and you can have unlimited
Mm.
amount of databases, and
Right.
it works very well with me.
Mm.
So every Sunday I try to plan the rest of the week so that I don't get
Right.
up in the morning and wonder what to do.
Yes.
And it doesn't mean I can't change things, but at least I don't spend time being apathetic.
Yes.
Yeah. But yeah, just it's, right now I'm in a place where I try to get everything, all my pillars up and running, prints, and I'm working on a course, abstract realism course, trying to get better at Instagram and trying to get things up and running. So then I
Mm.
schedule parts of the week where my focus is there and parts of the week
Yeah.
where I'm free to paint.
Yeah. Yeah. Having that, this is the time I'm working on that.
Yeah,
Do you find that works
yeah.
well?
Yeah, I'm not so good at scheduling from this time to that time, but I have
Mm.
a bullet point list each day that I'm gonna try and get through. Lists works much better for me than scheduling.
Yeah. No, that's what I've found too,
Yeah.
Lene. Yeah. I think I started with like 3 top things I wanted to get done, and I just crossed them off through the day
Mm.
just because that works better with my schedule. I can't do like the 9 to 5 or even particularly know maybe what hours I could do in that day, but I know I'll be able to get to something.
Yeah, and I find that if I spend too much energy on the scheduling hour to hour thing, then I could have gotten a lot done in this time.
You don't want it to be too difficult. Yeah,
Yeah.
some people love the I think I went through a stage where I was looking at those bullet journals, the dot planner.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's called bullet journaling. I've already pushed it aside because it didn't work. It's like I'll just forget about that because it was too difficult, where people go in
Yeah,
and make
yeah.
make the whole thing really pretty, and I'm like, I don't have time for that. Scratching it on a piece of paper, that's good.
Yeah, I mean, all for doing things that creative sort of outlet, but I don't want to do that in my calendar. My calendar, I just want structure and the ability
Yes.
to move things around.
Yes, yes.
So no, I don't know how many books I've purchased to like plan things out, but I
Same.
always go back to digital.
Yeah, same.
I've accepted that now.
Yeah. No, I was a sucker for a while with, yeah, for pretty diaries and things like that, and I
Yeah,
never ended up using them. It just
no.
because I would just go to my phone. It's easy to put it into Google Calendar. And so going forward, Lene, do you have any future pursuits or things where you want to head or things you want to achieve?
Mm, yeah, I really want to be this tarot coach for artists
Yeah,
to help them discover who they are,
yeah,
their voice. Because I think often we're thinking all about like style and how to find your style, and as if it's something that you're looking for as an end destination.
which is funny. It's something that just happens, isn't it? We don't have to
It is.
really
It
really
is.
try too hard.
Yeah, no, it's the harder
Mm,
you work to find your style, the longer it's going to take to find your
yeah.
style, sort of thing. And I just feel that that is something that automatically falls into place as a natural result of you finding out who you are, to get
Mm,
closer to yourself, to work through your layers. And I love using tarot cards for that. It's like it's an extension of me, and I just love helping people with that and witnessing these sort of breakthroughs. I'm such a work in progress myself too, like finding this language of how to speak about things. I have some work to do there in terms of social media and
mm,
spreading the word like that, and in a way that makes people want it.
yeah.
I even created that, like I have a 6 week program with
Mhm.
that.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
modules were all just laid out with the tarot cards.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
And yeah, otherwise just want to achieve to get to a point where I feel like full-time art isn't a temporary thing.
It's an interesting way you put
Yeah.
it. Yeah, I felt like that with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right now, I feel like I forced it a little bit.
Mhm.
Okay, it's not happening. I'm just going to do it then. Yeah, I just want to get to a place where I feel like I'm not faking it until I make it.
Yeah, can understand that.
But if I have to figure something out for a little while, it's fine. I can get to a place where I accept that as well. But that's my goal anyway, to see some progress,
Mm.
see that I'm getting some results from what I'm doing now.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome, Renee. And any final advice on living a fulfilling life and balancing things?
Get good at identifying the why behind all your choices. Is
Mm.
it due to fear, or is it due to something that you gravitate towards? Even if it's something I've noticed that people say, oh, it's so good that you found your unique thing. It's much better to create something that is unique than to emulate. And I feel that that is a misunderstanding, or because even if you long to create through another artist's eyes, if you're particularly drawn to an artist's style, or you want to paint like that, just do it and trust that the longing is based in an authentic reason, even if it is emulating and is not quote unquote yours. The longing is yours, and trust that that is rooted in something authentic. And then you try it, and then you try someone else's work, and then you try someone else's, and then eventually you will collect so many different techniques and tools and ways of doing things that you will adopt it in a way that it becomes yours. Yeah, trust that process. You could choose not to do it a certain way because of reasons you make up in your head, like I can't do it that way because this artist does it that way, or but that is a fear-driven reason not to do it, and that's when you actually don't follow your path because you get in your own way. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I love that, Lene. I liked what you said before too when you were looking through Unsplash, that hell yes, that feeling you get with and that art, and that it's all a learning process. Whatever you choose to do, that your style can't not come out eventually. If you're basing your decision, like you say, knowing where it's coming from, knowing if it's coming from that fear or that place of that hell yes, or I love what you said about it's your longing, and that will take its own journey.
Yeah, and the longing is there for a reason. I believe I don't believe that longing is random, and just follow it, and trust that there's a reason. And to really get to know what drives your choices, and to practice following what you desire, and then that is your authentic path.
Yeah, very true. Awesome. Thank you so much, Lene, for joining me today and sharing everything that you have. And I will link your website and socials in the show notes.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for inviting me. I very much appreciate it. I was just so excited to chat to you again.
It's been awesome to chat. Thank you for joining us on the Trailblazers Palette podcast. We appreciate your support. Don't forget to subscribe and share if you enjoyed the episode. Stay tuned for more inspiring conversations with incredible guests. Keep blazing your trail, and until next time, stay inspired. This is Sancha, your host, signing off. See you soon, Trailblazers.